Hi everyone, this is problem number 13 from our last exam, and there was an error on that, and if you got this right then and you lost points, you need to show me that so I can give you credit. I don't believe anyone got it right though, but I just wanted to go over this. This was actually a Regents question. That's quite long, but I want to make sure everyone knows how to do this. Okay, so this is what the picture looked like. You were given a right triangle. Two legs were 6 and 12. You were not given the hypotenuse, and you need to find the altitude, which is x. So the first thing you might think is that this would use the altitude rule. The altitude rule says that if you set up this proportion, you would put the altitude here and here, and then you would put part of the hypotenuse up there and the other part of the hypotenuse over there. Okay, you can't use this because the problem is you don't have the altitude and you don't have anything to do with the hypotenuse. So right now we're not going to go with that. Okay, the other rule that we learned was the leg rule. And the leg rule was a proportion where you would put one of the legs here and here, and then you would have the whole hypotenuse, and then you would have the shadow, which is the part of the hypotenuse that goes with the leg that you used. Okay, and again, we have no hypotenuse. So basically, we can't do anything unless we have the hypotenuse. But we could get the hypotenuse because this is a right triangle and we have two sides. So we could use the Pythagorean theorem, which is that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is the hypotenuse and a and b are the legs. So if we solve this, we get this. So you could leave your answer as the square root of 180, but the question did say that it needs to be in simplest radical form. So if you do simplify this, you're going to get 6 radical 5. That means that this entire hypotenuse is 6 radical 5. Okay, so now let's see what we have. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our different rules. Okay, so one rule was the altitude rule, which we already spoke about. So this would be the altitudes, and then this would be part of the hypotenuse, and this would be the other part of the hypotenuse. Okay, so we don't have any of that. And if we try the leg rule again, then we have the leg would go there and there, and then you're going to need the whole hypotenuse, which we do have now, and then you're going to need the shadow, which is our unknown right there. Okay, so it would appear that this is going to be our best bet. So let's try that, and if we don't get anywhere with that, then we'll just try something else, that's all. Okay, so we make some room here. Okay, so we have 6 over radical 5 over 6 equals 6 over x, and x is going to be this part. That's the shadow that's coming from the leg of 6. That's part of the hypotenuse. Okay, let's make some room. Okay, so if we cross multiply, we get 6 radical 5x equals 36. And then we can divide both sides by 6 radical 5. And we get that x equals, 6 goes into 36 6 times, 6 over radical 5. So that means that I now know that this piece here is 6 over radical 5. Okay? Now remember, we're still looking for this altitude. At some point we are going to need the altitude rule. Okay, so remember the altitude rule is this proportion that says the altitudes go there, and then you're going to have one part of the hypotenuse here and the other part here. So we actually have one part now, so we can replace this little piece here with 6 over radical 5. So the only thing we need is the second part of the hypotenuse, which is now our unknown here. Let's call that y. Okay? And I just realized before I called that 6 over radical 5x, not to be confused with the red x there. It's two separate things. Okay, so wouldn't y actually be 6 radical 5, the whole hypotenuse, minus the piece that we have? Right? Just take the big part and then take the whole thing and take away the little part and you'll get the other piece we're missing. So actually we do know what that second part of the hypotenuse is. It's actually this. Okay, and now we can actually go ahead and solve this. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply. So we get x squared equals 6 over radical 5 times, you need the parentheses here, 6 radical 5 minus 6 over radical 5. Okay, next we're going to have to distribute to each term. So we're going to get 6 radical 5 times 6 over radical 5 times 6 radical 5, that's our first piece, right? Minus 6 radical 5 times 6 radical 5. Okay, I'm going to move back up here. Okay, so x squared equals, okay, I'm working on this part right now. So if I put this over 1, you can see that the radical 5's cancel, and we're left with 36. Minus, now I'm doing this part. So I'm just going to multiply straight across. 6 times 6 is 36, and radical 5 times radical 5 is just 5. Okay, we're almost there. So I'm going to need a common denominator of 5. Okay, and when I do that, I'm going to get 180 over 5, because 180 over 5 is 36. Okay, and 180 minus 36 is 144 over 5. Okay, to get our x alone, we take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals 12 over radical 5. And that was the answer. And I would like to thank Zoya for helping me put this whole thing together. Thank you, Zoya. So if anyone got that as an answer and you were marked incorrect, please see me immediately. And that's it.